Hello there, lovely good afternoon, and welcome to the Lunchtime Cafe right here on Camnet TV. My name is Joe Smata. Now today we delve into matters of governance as we host a governance expert in the name of Mr. Gregory Chifiri. Good to see you, sir, and welcome.
Thank you, Joe, and good afternoon, viewers out there.
Okay, fantastic. Now, Mr. Chifiri, first things first, you on the other hand issued a statement regarding the Mukula trade. I know some might have forgotten about the Mukula trade and the Mukula cartels, but you have taken us back and reminded us about this particular trade. Let's begin to dissect the contents of that particular press release and the briefing that you had, sir.
Well, we issued a statement asking the President to constitute a commission of inquiry because according to the Inquiries Act Section 2(1), he's empowered to do so. And what necessitated our call is the various illegal dealings that characterized the Mukula trade in the past decade. Mm-hmm. Some of these illegalities are even being reviewed in the current case that is involving the former Minister of Lands, Ms. Jean Kapata. Mm-hmm. And also I think it would be only prudent and fair even for the President to lift the oath of secrecy on Ms. Kapata, because she needs to defend herself well in court. Because I know there are certain questions that will be asked of her. She will not be able to respond. And I think she raised that matter in court when she was asked as to why there's a ban. There was a ban, during the ban others continued to trade in the Mukula. So we feel that those issues like those need us to approach this matter of Mukula trade in a more holistic way by having a commission of inquiry, because it will not narrow on an individual like it is now on Ms. Kapata. Okay. And secondly, we also witnessed the arrest of the alleged main trader in Mukula. We are not sure about the truth in that was the main one, but he was arrested because we are told that he collected money from a Mozambican national, okay. Mr. Pascal, a Congolese national, Mr. Osembe Pena. He collected also some money from Kariki Investment, a Zambian company. He also collected another sum from Mr. Teta Mashimba and so on and so forth. But these are mere allegations. Okay. And now they have gone to court. We pray that the truth is going to come out of court, because there's an allegation, and the man now be given an opportunity to help us understand the truth as regarding what really transpired. So we are glad that finally the matter has gone to court. And according to information that we have is that the victims have been trying for a long time to have this matter taken to court, but there has been a lot of resistance from the state to take on the matter. Perhaps they are alleging that maybe he was politically connected and so on and so forth, but we are not in the right space to state otherwise. But our job as an anti-corruption watchdog is to ensure that justice prevails. Mm-hmm. We will also undertake trial monitoring to ensure that the same suspect is accorded a fair trial. His rights as a suspect are respected, and so on and so forth. In as much as also we're going to monitor the cases going on to ensure that justice prevails. Mm-hmm. If it's true that there was illegality, committed those crimes, we'll ensure that the victims get the justice that they deserve. So the Mukula trade to us is one of the biggest scandals that have graced Zambia, whereby politicians and those that are politically connected have been benefiting to the exclusion of the poor. The rightful owners of the trees, of the timber, are Zambians. You know, there's a report that was done by the Center for Forest Research. It's an international organization that stated that, that report in 2016 alone, that Zambia recorded that exported 900,000 worth of mukula to China.
$900,000
worth of mukula to China. Meanwhile, the Chinese government reported that they imported mukula worth $87 million. Now you see that discrepancy of over $86 million, meaning that something is not adding up. They were falsifying figures and so on and so forth to fool us Zambians, because they, according to the politicians, we are stupid people, that they can just do anything and then they go away with it. So when we look at those issues, those figures, we are compelled to ask the president to call for a commission of inquiry, because we want to know how our resources are being used.
Okay.
And this commission of inquiry also will set a certain stage or a certain tone in as far as the fight against abuse of national resources are concerned. Already we've got the issue of Sugilite. There was an issue there also on the Sugilite, where we know that few individuals were benefiting from Sugilite. But if we are not addressing the issue of mukula, how politicians and politically connected individuals we are benefiting, we risk a repeat of the same in mukula and other strategic resources. So we must own up ourselves and face reality and say, let's face it, and those that have illegally benefited in the trade of mukula must pay the price, and also we clear a way of setting ground rules going forward on how we are going to trade in our strategic resources. They're not just resources, these are very strategic resources. Because imagine we are cutting trees, a mukula tree, for it to grow to maturity, it takes maybe 30 or 40 years. We may not have them again, our children may not have them again. So we need a holistic approach. We need just to own up ourselves as a country, and it's really a passionate appeal to the president to set up this commission of inquiry in the interest of the country and in the interest of the future, so that we get to know. There are people that perhaps others have been mudslung to say you are the ones that were benefiting. Perhaps they will need also to be cleared, their names to be cleared, so that they walk tall on the street that they never actually participated. So that is the angle from which we are coming, that we feel that this issue is very important. Yeah.
Okay. Now, Mr. Chifiri, just on that one, you talked about politicians, in most cases, taking the people of Zambia for granted and doing whatever they want to do because they feel they can get away with it. And you brought out the issues of corruption. Now, when you talk about corruption, coupled with politicians taking people for granted, under this particular administration, do you see an intensified fight against corruption?
Well, I'll answer it from making a comparison. From where we're coming to where we are now, there is a difference.
Okay.
Though we expected much more. There has been political will in the fight against corruption. The president has made those pronouncements time and again. However, very little success has been scored. That is statistically. Perhaps we are yet to see, but we expected much more. We expected that the law enforcement agencies would take up presidential pronouncements and turn them to reality. But the reality on the ground is different. That we have been talking of PF corruption, which is an open secret. but so far very few have been convicted.
Mhm.
Very few are in court. Big cases we were reading about those days. They're nowhere and close to seeing the inside of courts. So we have a problem there. There's a disjoint between the executive pronouncements and what the oversight institutions are doing. We have a problem there in that those that are mandated to carry out the fight against corruption have not wholeheartedly taken the message.
Okay.
So we must interrogate ourselves as to the reason why it is like that. Some of the reasons are that the institutions themselves are compromised. It's a carry forward from MMT, PF, and the same civil servants that have been benefiting in corruption. They're still there even now. Of course, it is difficult to just come and clean and chase away everyone.
Mm-hmm.
But we need to create mechanisms going forward that are going to prevent those same civil servants from getting involved in corruption. What we have heard, why is it that there was corruption from the civil service, the judiciary, and so on and so forth, is that we don't have mechanisms in place to prevent corruption. Perhaps also our laws are very weak in terms of preventing corruption. I would challenge the viewers out there to do a research and find out the longest sentences given to people that are charged with corruption by the courts. I think the courts have been very lenient in this area.
Okay.
The maximum sentence that has been given, I think, has been 3 years, in as far as corruption cases are concerned. In so doing, we find that people do not fear to get involved in corruption because they'll save the 3 years and come back.
Mm-hmm.
But if the courts could stretch to the maximum available sentence, then that would help us. Also, in the recent past, I've seen that the state has been using also the forfeiture of proceeds of crime to punish those that are involved in the corruption and the abuse of authority. They'll tell them that you surrender a certain portion of your proceeds and then you continue to live your life. Honestly, well, we may not be privy to the reasons that the state may be giving. They have recovered so much of those assets, millions of dollars. But speaking as me, and not as Senak, but as me, I don't support that piece of legislation because it only creates a fertile ground for people to be stealing, and not only stealing, but stealing more, so that when the time for payback comes, they'll have enough to share with the state and enough for them to hide.
Okay.
It is not possible that someone who has stolen can surrender everything, because for them to have stolen, they had the plan to live their life in a certain way. And I think we've got an example. The first case of a young lady is proceeds of where the act was invoked on the forfeiture of proceeds. It was in a young lady, a journalist, where I think some monies were recovered from Newcastle in her residence. We were told that she was asked to surrender that money. Millions of kwacha and hundreds of thousands of dollars. Down the line, we are told that the state went back and said that they had evidence that she did not surrender everything. That should show you that it's not possible that those that surrender, they surrender everything. The state has no mechanism whatsoever, has no capacity to monitor, to know that someone has surrendered everything.
Okay.
And over and above that, Joe, that law has created a disparity and some form of classes in as far as dispensing of justice is concerned. it has created a situation where the rich have got a leeway to come out to pay for their freedom, whereas the poor do not have. Because the Anti-Corruption Commission or the Drug Enforcement Commission will not negotiate with someone who has stolen 10,000 kwacha. They'll simply tell that guy, go and save your sentence. Because the person is poor.
Okay.
But those that have stolen a lot, the state is willing and ready to negotiate with them. The state is willing to be bribed, because I think that is bribe. You're bribing the state. You're telling the state, okay, I'll give you money, I'll pay you, then give me my freedom.
So the state is participating in corruption?
The state is participating in corruption by that act. So that act needs to be repealed. That act needs to be done away with, or perhaps amended at the least. Look, here is someone who has stolen food, a widow in the supermarkets has stolen food to go and feed the children at home. She's arrested. But because she has stolen a loaf of bread, there's no opportunity for her to cut that half loaf and give
to the state.
To the state, and remain with the other half to go and feed the children. It is not there. Okay? So we are saying, we are appealing to the powers that be to seriously look into that piece of legislation. If anything, Joe, when you convict someone of a particular theft, let me put it a theft that they stole money, they built a house in Ibex here. When they are caught, they are convicted. They'll forfeit the house to the state and they go to prison at the same time, isn't it? But why is it that now we want to take the shortest route, the shortcut, and they say, okay, just surrender part and then you'll go scot-free? Well, it sends a message to me as a civil servant that when I'm in a position to steal, I should steal and steal enough so that I'll be able to, I'll have capacity to do what? To buy my freedom. So it is a fertile ground for corruption to us. It's a fertile ground for theft and abuse of authority by those that are charged with responsibility. So also I think we also need to challenge Parliament, Joe, to help us by coming up with a stiffer punishment for corruption. The current punishment for corruption, which you are now talking about, where people just surrender their proceeds and they go scot-free, is not helping, is actually encouraging corruption. We need to see a situation where the punishment for corruption is maybe taking 15 years, 20 years of life imprisonment, as it is in other jurisdictions like China, where corruption, the punishment for corruption is life imprisonment at the least, and then a death sentence. So in so doing, it is going to help the would-be perpetrators to fear. It will deter people from getting involved in corruption. But not this one where we are hero worshipping them. Say someone has surrendered $24 million, then they even go and announce to say, okay, that $24 million, it has been channeled towards education for children. We go and know the money we surrendered, we got from the journalist, we have taken it to bursary, and then we clap with headlines, write headlines.
In black and white.
In black and white. The journalist has funded education for our children, a thief. I don't think that is correct. We need to change the way we fight corruption. It needs seriousness. Joe, I'm passionate about this matter because the effects of corruption are far-reaching. And we have a long, long way to fight corruption in this country because of these same problems, of these same weak laws, and also the fact that the institutions themselves that are mandated to fight corruption are corrupt, including the judiciary.
Okay. So just there, Mr. Chifiri, a certain section of society are throwing in a theory that politicians themselves are colluding with these suspected thieves to have these light sentences, these laws to be pushed in so that behind the curtains, there are kickbacks taking place. People are getting rich on the expense of the fight against corruption. How do you look at that theory?
Well, we have heard of such allegations that certain politically active people go and negotiate with former PF ministers and those that will negotiate for you, and that sums of money have exchanged hands. Well, we may not have the details, but sometimes they say there's no smoke without fire.
Exactly.
There is need for us to really interrogate these matters. There may be truth in what they are saying. It's just that we have not caught anyone red-handed by the hand. But if that is happening, then it is very, very unfortunate. Zambia has had hope in the change that they so much sought for, and this change must translate into the real fight against corruption. No one disputes that there was heavy corruption in the PF, including PF members themselves. They acknowledge that fact. So it's unfortunate, it would be unfortunate if anyone in the current setup begins to aid and abet such conduct. We will be doing ourselves a very big disservice as a country, as a people, if certain among us get involved in that. And if they are caught, we would ask that the most stiff punishment is meted upon such people for colluding with criminals, for aiding criminals. And it should never happen. So we need to seriously look at these allegations. I've not heard them only from you. I've heard them several times. Perhaps they speak to the fact that maybe the fact that it could be the reason maybe we are having very few convictions, very few cases of corruption before the courts of law. But anyway, that having been said, we're not saying that we're not going to have these cases in the courts of law. Maybe we're trying to jump the gun. We'll be patient and see where these matters are helping us. Especially that the president time and again has said we fight corruption. I think we must fight it. It's not end with the presidential pronouncements only. Everyone, including the members of the UPND, must take a leaf, must take heed to the presidential decree, presidential direction, because the word of the president is power. The president says, I don't want corruption. I detest corruption. We must fight corruption. Everyone in the UPND, whether as a party or as government, must take it seriously and fight corruption to the hilt.
Okay. Now, still on the fight against corruption, Mr. Chifire, let me find out from you. There were trucks, for instance, when this administration came into power, of Mukula, that were confiscated. We haven't heard much about that. We have heard unconfirmed reports again suggesting that there are people that are politically connected in this particular administration that have continued in the trade of Mukula. These are claims, allegations out there. And also, you talked about Sujilite. Let me bring in the issue of Sujilite, where trucks were intercepted in Kabwe. The story also has died down. You have mentioned the president. Yes, we have heard them saying he will fight past corruption, present corruption or current corruption, and future corruption. With these cases as casing points, Mr. Chifire, the Mukula trucks, the Sujilite that mysteriously disappeared in Kabwe, we haven't heard anything about it since that time. Do you think the fight against corruption, before we can even compare to the past, under this administration, do you think it's being taken seriously or it's just a sham?
Well, beginning with the issue of Mukula, the trucks, the 40 trucks, the biggest raid, Mukula raid, I think happened in Chirundu. We had a meeting with the deputy director of the ACC a few months ago regarding the same matter.
Okay.
We were duly informed that the matter is before the courts of law, and it's receiving attention, and we hope it shall receive that attention. And we intend to also up our monitoring system to monitor how far this case is going, because it's also a very big concern to us that since the confiscation of that band of Mukula, we have not heard much. The public has not been told much how far the case is, what is happening, and so on and so forth. I think there is need, honestly, from our point of view. Our concern is that there is need for the law enforcement agencies to be more vigilant in the fight against corruption and abuse of resources, such as the issue of Mukula and Sugilite. We wouldn't want to sound so like we are not appreciating the works that they are doing, but from where the general public is standing, feel that the law enforcement agencies are not doing so much. Yes, you've talked about the Sugilite that was confiscated in Kawe. What has happened thereafter? The reporting system has not been there. Those that are mandated with responsibilities such as the ones we're talking about should bear in mind that they work for the people of Zambia. And the people of Zambia from time to time demand answers, demand progress reports. If they take away their eyes from this reality, then they'll fail in their duties. It's a pity that most public workers, public servants, they feel they are the masters of the people of Zambia, when it is the other way around. They get paid because of your taxes and my taxes. So they must work to the satisfaction of us, the employers. And in the absence of that, then it means that they are failing in their duties.
Okay.
I think you and me and the people, the viewers out there, demand an update on what is happening in the Sugilite case, as well as what is happening in the Mukula scandals that we have heard. Not one, not two, there have been quite a number of these cases. What is happening? We want to see. I think when it comes to cases like this, the law enforcement agencies must endeavor to take a deliberate step to perhaps create a special gazette where they are reporting the progress of these matters, because they are very, very important, especially that they are attached to corruption. We feel that Zambians have a big say in this, and time and again they have come to accuse them of having been compromised. It's because they don't report. They are quiet. Some of the cases fizzle out unnoticed. They just die natural death. But if they're in the general public, in the public domain, I think all of us will be able to follow what is happening, or be able to monitor, because we have a right to know. And it's not everyone that will have an opportunity to go and have a meeting with the director at the Anti-Corruption Commission. It's only a few. So it should not be a matter of us asking them, but it is a matter of them by their duty to see to it that they are supposed to do what? To report. Yeah, so let's create a reporting mechanism. I hope they could listen to programs like this. They should be open enough to as many suggestions as possible. We may not be significant to them, we may not matter to them, but in our little contribution, our insignificant contribution, which may lack expertise, which may lack wisdom, I think it's important that they also hear us. because who knows, maybe some of the things we raise, they might have some sense in one way or another.
Besides, you are a stakeholder as a Zambian, after all. Now, moving on, Mr. Chifiri, we have seen inconsistencies, lack of proper reporting, obviously, lack of updating the nation, and inconsistencies from the governing UPND. I want to ask you, being a governance expert, you have followed governance matters, political matters altogether. There's a concern from members of the public, including those in the UPND, that maybe, just maybe, the UPND might be hijacked by those that, according to reports out there, those that are not really true reds. That we can take it to cabinet. We find that the cabinet, when you look at the UPND cabinet, maybe only a handful of ministers there, including the president. The true reds, if you like, if you look at, we don't want to name names, but if you look at some individuals crossed from MMD to UPND, from MMD, some even did a hat trick from MMD to PF to UPND. We call that a hat trick in football, when one player scores three goals at a time. So I'm referring to that. But let's come to the issue of the UPND being hijacked, and then there's this content that the true raids are being left out on the expense of those that came at the last and final minute of joining the UPND. Maybe this is why we're having these inconsistencies.
Well, I may not be so much privy about the actual business in UPND, but maybe that being the given, or say that it is not a very, it could not be a very pleasant situation. Time over and again, we have seen people from outside. It also happened with the UPF, where towards the end of the PF, from 2015, it's not even towards the end, but the second half from 2015, after President Sata died, there was a very serious allegation that the party was hijacked by outsiders. Names were given: the Doras Elias, the Vincent Mwales, the Chilufias, and they occupied lofty positions in government. So this is not new, it has happened before, but political parties must be wary to not to forsake those that they have suffered with, because loyalty is everything in politics. And you should also understand that those that jump from one political party to another, they don't have principles. They will always do that. So their motive is simply to eat and nothing else. They don't have principles, political principles. They don't believe on anything. And because they don't believe on anything, they can fall for anything. If they have been in MMD and in PF and now in UPND, when UPND falls, at the time UPND will fall, they will jump to another political party. They are not loyal. They only follow honey. They don't follow hard work. But those that, there are also another type of membership that has principles. Those are your real members. Those are your real members. If there is a way that such also could be honored in a little way. Let's face facts here. The facts are that people join politics, because they want a benefit at the end of the day. They sacrifice their lives, they sacrifice everything, because tomorrow they want to be honored. But I'm not a politician, I'm not an authority in that area. Maybe the political establishment look at the various talents that people have. But some of those nomads talented, or they pontificate a posture of talent. Because most of them really they are gifted, even in telling lies. They are really gifted. When they tell a lie, any mortal being would fall for a lie, for their lives, because it's their profession. They have
they've refined it over the years.
Refined it over years. So they know how to go around with presidents, they know how to go around their political, And if you look at them, most of them, they're not even risk takers. They are the good weather type of politicians. You find them there, when they join, they'll go and find themselves at the dinner table, at the high table. But their contributions towards the defense of what they have gotten is lukewarm.
Why is that the case?
Because they don't want to offend anyone. They just want to eat. That's their interest.
Politics of the belly.
Politics of the belly. You find as a minister now, there's something that has brewed, perhaps in Western Province. They will not condemn that matter. Them is the good boys, just good. They are diplomatic all the time, because they are warming their way to the next government. So politicians should be aware. We know them who have been around for a long time. We just watch and say, okay, I can assure you, in the next government, if the UPND almost, some of them will be there. They'll even find themselves nominated. They'll find themselves adopted. You even wonder, but this guy, last night we were with him this side. How come? So those are dangerous for building a party to make parties win. They normally contribute to losses of political parties. You should watch them. Their pattern is the same. There are such turncoats, that at the change of government, they jump. They don't want to suffer. They don't want to sacrifice. So we have these politicians, but they are not helpful in as far as taking you to the next level is concerned. The PF had such from the MMD, and they jumped because the MMD was in power. But their political contributions are not so significant. So there is need for striking of a balance. The powers that be must endeavor to strike a balance between pleasing the same ones and pleasing those that have suffered with them, that have dodged bullets with them. Those that tried and tested, they can die for you. So there's need to strike a good balance between the two groups.
Let me put you on the spotlight, Mr. Chifiri. Is this the current situation that the UPND has found itself into? Is this the dilemma that the UPND is currently facing?
Of course, where there is honey, you find that it attracts a lot of squirrels that want to go and benefit from the pot of honey. It has been happening, and it is happening now, and it will continue to happen. And it's also there in the UPND. There are people that did not sacrifice as much as the others did. But they are there, they are reaping. Okay? We don't know why, but there are reasons. Perhaps I've said some of them are so skewed. We don't know by what power they use to be where they find themselves to be. But they manage to dislodge the rightful heirs. They manage to dislodge the prince and sit next to the king or the prince, the rightful prince's seat. It is there. And it also going to continue to be there.
Okay.
Because our politics in Zambia, Joe, are not politics of principle. They are politics of eating. And so those sometimes that speak the sweetest of languages, they go and eat. You know, there are people that are so specialized that when they go to the president and tell the president, they tell whoever and say, Joe is a very bad man. They'll paint such a bad picture that the appointing authority don't want to look at you the second time. There are those are the fellas. And the way they give the paint picture to the authorities that all is well with them, and they'll make them win the whole country and tell them that I can die for you. Okay? Themselves will die for the president. And they can give them, even sacrifice their family for the powers that be. Forgetting that they just ran away from somewhere. Why did they do that? Okay? So we have such, it is happening, and when not handled well, it can lead to divisions in the certain groupings in political parties, because the others will feel, I sacrificed, but look at where I am now. It takes away the morale, it takes away the enthusiasm from people. So there's need for political establishments to balance it up. Yeah, we know these things, they happen. Okay. We watch and we see and say, okay, perhaps we find a lasting solution one day.
Okay. Mr. Chifiri, moving away from that, but still on governance matters, let's look at the state of democracy. The opposition, if we give an example of the New Heritage Party, one, they would like to have a rally in Mandevo constituency. However, they've been told to bring forth a certificate of the party of registration. And they are now caused that the shrinking democratic space in the country, the opposition are not being allowed to gather and have a meeting or a rally with the electorates out there. As a governance expert, let me get it from you. This is the third year of the UPND. How's the state of democracy from your angle?
Well, the administration of the Public Order Act, because that's the ambit of Public Order Act, is done by the police. And we have stated time and again that the administration of the end of the police on this act has not been fair. And I'll take you back as I answer you that from 2015 to 2021, outside the election period, the opposition was banned from having rallies. Civil society was outlawed from gathering. So the freedom of assembly was outlawed for 6 years.
Okay.
In Zambia. And it is worrying if we may think that such a moratorium is repeating itself. I think there is need for tolerance of ideologies and divergence. Those that want to gather to speak to the people should be allowed to do so, because in a democratic setup, the constitution, our constitution allows for a freedom of assembly. That is why we're advocating. We know that the Public Order Act is undergoing a review. I think there were meetings that were done last year where because we need to amend that speedily because it has to align itself with the constitution, especially where it's talking about the freedom of assembly. And from practice, I think the police has been at fault in administering this piece of legislation.
Okay.
Allow people to meet, allow people to gather because it's their freedom of, it's their freedom, their human rights, and as enshrined in the Constitution. And the UPND must not be seen to be doing what the PF did. I think for now they do not have much to fear, honestly. Just allow the people to gather. Sometimes when you see your opponent gather, you'll be able to gauge their strength and their weaknesses. Then you'll be able to work on those. But if you do not know how your enemies are performing, it is difficult for you to formulate an appropriate strategy. So they should deliberately, the state, the police should allow so that we also know to what extent the strength of these political parties are. Some of them are just strong on paper. They are not there. And to be honest with you, the opposition in Zambia at the moment needs to wake up.
Okay.
There are so many political parties, but majority of them they simply exist because under the constitution they can exist, but in the reality they far flat from the bare minimum of being called a political party. Some of them are just family parties or individual political parties, but they make noise when they come on television like this. They'll make a lot of noise. So just test them and give them a platform. You'll see them how they'll fail. Okay.
And still on matters of now, let's switch to matters of the economy. There's an issue out there, Mr. Chifire, of Zambia having the high cost of living, and also just yesterday the Bank of Zambia increased the monetary policy rate from 4.5 to 13.5%. That has been received with mixed reactions. ZESCO also produced or released conflicting statements. Tariff hikes have been reversed, and another statement now is suggesting that tariff hikes have been maintained. The water utility company also this very week decided to begin to ration water in Lusaka City. Mr. Chifire, all this coupled with what is currently obtaining on the ground, how do you as a governance expert look at this whole arrangement?
Well, it's an open secret, really, that the economy is biting. I think everyone accepts that. And this trend has been going on for a long time. It's not now that we have realized that the economy is bad. Generally, as Zambians, our standards of living are really, really low. We are barely surviving. And the phenomena that we are facing of general price increase, I don't want to use this term or this excuse to say it's a world phenomena. It's happening everywhere. It's something that you have very little control over. The water in the Kariba Dam, the drought and so on, have come to just worsen the situation, the bad situation that is there already.
Okay.
What we need there are two variables here.
Okay.
There is one, the economy is bad, high prices are going up. But there's another variable where salaries have remained stagnant and the employment levels have remained worryingly low. So what the government needs to do in the given circumstance is to come up with measures that will help in create employment. If you and me were getting an average of 20,000 kwacha a month, the majority of us in this country are getting 20,000 kwacha a month, the issue of prices would not be there, would not arise. What we have at the moment is that our people are getting peanuts on one hand. On the other hand, those that are getting peanuts are also very, very few. A majority of the people are outside unemployed. So this issue of us talking about prices of millimil at 300 kwacha will continue because we don't get enough money. Comparatively, I've lived in South Africa for 4 years now. The pricing in South Africa and Zambia are not very different.
Okay.
The same amount, the same price we get for cooking oil in South Africa is the same here. But why is it that in South Africa they don't give that much of an issue? It's because South Africans on average get much more than we get in terms of salary. A doctor in South Africa gets 80,000 rands on average a month.
Okay.
A doctor here gets 20,000. A junior doctor here gets around 20,000. In South Africa, they get 60,000. So there's this disparity in terms of our standard of living. So the government must raise the standard of living of the people. And when you have a lot of people in employment, a lot of people who are able to do business, gainful business, you find that we are able to address some of these issues. You are able to access alternative source of energy because you have money. You can go to China and order solar panels and so on and so forth. But what it is now, where only a few are employed, and even you are employed, I have got relatives that are not employed. When you get your salary, you have got to, okay? So we find ourselves in this situation. Prices have been decreasing every year from time immemorial. Even in the UK, it's the same. Prices in the UK are much higher than prices in Zambia. But in the UK, they've got living wage. Okay. You get to a restaurant in the UK, you spend £200. Translate that to kwacha. It's a lot of money. Okay, because they are living. But us, our governments are not so much concerned about creating a quality employment.
Is it deliberate?
Well, I think it's historic. Maybe not deliberate, but it's historic that we are blind to those facts. Our thinking is in a certain way. Okay. Yeah, we need to change our mindset as a people. You know, Joe, one thing that is killing us as Africans and as Zambia is that we are donor dependent. We have refused to think outside the box.
Okay.
And the donors, they will detect to you what you are going to spend on your workers, okay, on your wage bill. They detect to you, say, don't employ, because they run your economy. But if we thought outside the box, we don't need the donors. If we removed corruption and said, we are going to prudently utilize our resources. Sujilite alone, you remember those figures that were being told, that package is more than $10,000 or something like that.
Exactly.
A kilo of Sujilite. How much of Sujilite do we have on the ground? The money from there can go round. The Mukula we're talking about, the money from Mukula can go round. I remember in Libya was under Muammar Gaddafi. Libyans never used to pay for electricity. School was free. They had everything they needed. Accommodation was free. When you finish your education, you go and register. They give you free accommodation. Why? Because it was prudent usage of resources. We can do that also, but we are refusing to think outside the box. It's a historic kind of thing that we are conditioned to think that donors are going to run our economy. Our natural resources are not ours. Those that are ours, we steal them to the exclusion of other people. Even go to the copper belt, there are very few people that could benefit from copper. Even they call them Jerabo.
The Jerabos.
Some of them even devised means of just stealing. We're not justifying that. Stealing the copper so that they benefit. And you find that they are rich from the copper proceeds. They are rich.
Yes.
Yes. So, if now the copper was to benefit everyone, at the time of ZCCM, look at how copper belt was. We are running our own copper. But once, at the moment we privatized the copper, the mines and everything, look at how dirty the copper belt is. There is money in copper, there is money in natural resources. If there was no money in copper, you couldn't have seen those investors coming to invest in copper. They've been lying to us.
Okay.
Yeah, so these are some of the issues that we need to address. Prices of goods and commodities will never go backwards. Even if a new government came in today, they will not reduce the price of milling. When PF took over from MMD, the price of milling was in the 20 kwachas, 27 kwacha thereabout. It went to 75 kwacha. Then it was left at 150, 160. When UPND came in, they found the price at 250, 260. It was at 200 at some point, then it went down to 260. Then now it is at 300. This should tell you that even the change of government will not change the prices. What we need to address the other variables of creating employment and conducive environment for you to go and mechanize a farm and then produce more, and the prices, that's when they'll go down. But we're just addressing the problem. They were addressing the symptoms, not addressing the problems.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have got a long way to go in addressing some of these economic, social, and political issues in our country.
Okay. Mr. Chifire, under a minute, that the government officials are watching, the general public is watching and following you right now. What would be your concluding remarks, having said and addressed everything that we've discussed on this particular platform, coupled with the current socio-economic challenges that Zambia is faced with?
I think most of our problems emanate from the fact that we failed to address the issue of corruption. If we addressed corruption, half of the problems that we have will be a thing of the past. Corruption has stolen a lot from the resources that we have. Talk about the mining, talk about the Mosujolite, the Mukula, everything it boils down to corruption. So let this government, and appeal to President Hakainde Hichilema, make the fight against corruption top priority.
Okay. Top priority, the fight against corruption. Thank you so much, Mr. Chifire, for coming through.
Thank you very much. Pleasure is mine.
Okay, fantastic. There you have it, viewers. That was Mr. Gregory Chifire making his appearance on Camnet TV's Lunchtime Cafe right here. And thank you, the major stakeholders, the viewers. Thank you so much for tuning in. Now, on behalf of my director, Mr. Isaac Chifida, and indeed the entire production team, I have been your host, Joe Smarter is my name. We'll see you next time, same time, same place. Good afternoon.